Welcome here to the Rotary Peace Fellowship Alumni Association Global Peace Conference, a gathering of more than 1,800 people so far have registered for the conference from over 130 countries. As we all know, the main theme for this year is weaving a shared future together. We're really looking forward to working with you over the next 24, well, although the first part has already started. We are now in zone 2 part, which is Europe, Africa and MENA. As I said before, my name is Phil Gittins. I was a Rotary Peace Fellow in 2012 at Chulalongkorn. On behalf of the Rotary Peace Fellowship Alumni Association, the Rotary family, more broadly speaking, it's wonderful for you to be here with us. I'm here moderating this session with my colleague Natalia, who we'll hear from shortly. Just to set a kind of scene for today, the main focus of this session will be threefold. One, we want to set the scene more broadly for the conference, a bit of a rationale behind it, and then say some specifics with regards to what's happening in the peace field and what's happening with regards to this conference. So who's here, who's put it together, what's the idea behind it. Then we're going to hear from 4 speakers, artists, etc., and we'll say a little bit about those 4 shortly. And then thirdly, we want to set up an opportunity to really interact with each other as well. So there's the plan for the opening plenary. So without further ado, let's move over, and I want to invite my colleague here, Natalia, to say a big thank you to everybody. Natalia.
Thank you very much, Phil, and hello and welcome everyone. I'm Natalia Sineaeva-Pankowska and I'm connecting with you from Poland, and I'm also a Rotary Peace Fellow alumna from Chulalongkorn University. And on behalf of our organizing teams in Europe, Africa and the Middle East, we would like to express our gratitude to the entire Rotary Peace Fellow community, Rotarians, for your support of our conference, for being with us today. And our special thanks go to our collaborators who contributed to the conference, who made it possible, our speakers, facilitators, technical support volunteers, our special guests today, keynote speakers, and of course global team, global co-chairs with whom we have been working together and preparing the conference for already half a year, and our, of course, European team, European colleagues who helped us to organize the conference in our zone. So welcome everyone, and thank you for your contribution. Phil?
Thank you so much, Natalia. So without further ado, let's check who's with us. So thank you so much to everybody for writing in the chat your name, whether maybe you could put whether you're a Rotarian, a Rotary Peace Fellow, etc. But let's do a little bit of an interactive activity, and I'm going to go off the shared screen here so that you can see each other. So I'm going to ask a question, and if the answer is yes, you can either put your hands up, clap, or stand up. You decide. Okay, are we ready? Okay, so put your hands up, clap, or stand up if you're a Rotarian. So let's see everybody. You can come on camera. Okay, hey, great. Hey, there we go. We've got to make sure we take a photo of that one. Put your hands up, clap, or stand up if you're a Rotary Peace Fellow. Hey, okay, Rotary Peace Fellows in the house. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Put your hand up, clap, shout out loud if you're from Europe. Let's get a sense. Okay, brilliant. Put your hands up. Hey, there we go. Thank you so much. Put your hands up, clap, or stand up if you're not from Europe. Hey, here we go, some dancing. Okay, great. Okay, here's the other one. Put your hands up, clap, or shout if you're dedicated to bringing peace and more security in the world. Hey, there we go. Thank you so much. So why do we do that? Well, one, it's really cool to see you all waving your hands like that. Another reason we do that is because it's great to see the diversity in the room. So we've got Rotarians, we've got Rotary Peace Fellows, we've got people from different parts of the world, lots and lots of diversity. But we've also got diversity and unity. And what we mean by that is that you all put your hands up, shouted, or stood up because we're all here for a common purpose. We're all here because we're interested in weaving a shared future together and advancing the prospects for peace and security in the world. So thank you for being with us on that journey, and thank you for playing along with us on that one. So I'm just going to share the screen again. And what we want to do now is let's say a little bit about the specifics of why we're here. I think more broadly, although we do our work in very different contexts and very different needs, we're interested in looking at this transition from war, from a culture of violence to a culture of peace. Let's look at some of the statistics and that give a sense of what's the current situation right now with regards to peace building in the world. Well, if we look at leading research and evidence around the world, including from Rotary partner IEP, we can see that violence or containment and violence globally is costing the world economy about 14 trillion. If we look at the specifics with regards to that, we're currently investing each year about 2 trillion in preparing for war or war itself. If we put that into perspective, based on research, including from the UN, a fraction of that is needed, 30 billion, to end starvation on the planet. Other statistics that we've shown and evidence suggest that about 11 billion is needed to give the world clean access to drinking water. On another part of research, very well supported, it's suggested that we probably need about 2 billion to prevent armed conflict worldwide over the next 10 years. So there's some statistics. If we look at the situation with regards to peace building or violence prevention work, we can see that there's been a 340% increase in battlefield deaths worldwide in the last 10 years. This has resulted in or contributed to at least 70 million people around the world are refugees, etc. This is an alarming statistic about what if $1 for every $1 invested now, the cost of conflict would be reduced by $16 over the long run. So peace building work does not just save lives, it's about improving livelihoods as well. So it makes not just moral sense, but financial sense also that we're investing in peace building work. So hopefully that gives a bit of a context for why we're all here and why we try and do the work that we do. So that leads us on to, well, okay, what's the whole purpose of this conference, and what does this mean in terms of our work as Rotary Peace Fellows, as Rotarians, etc. And with that in mind, Natalia is going to give a bit of a more specific context with regards to this particular conference.
Thank you very much, Phil. So with this in mind, let's look at the conference as a whole. So we have four regional teams coming from three regional time zones: Asia, Oceania, Africa, Middle East, Europe, and the Americas. And we prepared our regional programs, giving the platform, first of all, for regional peace builders to share their work with a global community and discuss regional challenges. And within 24 hours, you will have the opportunity to attend more than 40 workshops and panel discussions and interact with more than 300 facilitators and many more attendees. And our regional program in Africa, Europe, Middle East is very diverse, and it has very strong content. And we have sessions, for example, discussing the cooperation between Rotary Peace Fellows and Rotarians in the field of peace building and conflict prevention, workshops on measuring peace, dialogue session with young people coming from conflict areas, from different parts of Europe, among many others. Subjects, and our criteria for selection were the relevance of the theme to the region, the challenges which our regions are facing today, but also relevance for the peace building in a more broader sense, inclusivity, and of course call for action. So, and we tried to follow these criteria when we created our programs for this conference. But this is not just about numbers, as you can see, but also about diversity, about inclusivity, because both our team members and also our speakers, facilitators, all of them are of very diverse backgrounds, coming from different parts of Africa, different parts of Europe, of the Middle East, and we represent the cultural diversity of our regions. And our also program presents different narratives, different ideas, with speakers of different age, location, being in different locations and in different contexts. So it's first of all about diversity and inclusivity.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you so much. So without further ado, hopefully we've give a nice bit of context with regards to one perspective in terms of looking at peace building work around the world. Natalia said more specifics about the great collaboration that's been in process for the last 6-9 months between the whole Rotary family, including Rotarians, Rotaract, Interact, Rotary Peace Fellows, and other partners for bringing this all together. We want to move on to the, let's say, the second aim is that to really showcase and feature 4 wonderful speakers, artists from around the world. So what we'll do now is that I'll give an introduction to the first speaker, and then we'll invite our board member Wale to introduce the Rotary President International next, and then Natalia will introduce Hafsat after that. Then we'll move on to breakout rooms to have a bit of interactivity and follow up with a performance from Karim. So just to give a perspective of where we're going to. So first of all, it's a great pleasure to introduce our wonderful colleague, wonderful peace builder, Will, who's a Rotary Peace Fellow, an award-winning poet and PhD candidate at the University of Cambridge. Will is going to be sharing a perspective, a poem with us related broadly to peace and maybe more specifically this conference. So thank you so much for being with us, Will, and the floor is yours, as they say.
Hey, how's it going, Phil? And thanks so much for that wonderful introduction. And it's a real pleasure and an honor to be here with you all this morning, or whatever time zone you might find yourself in the world. Again, thanks so much for the opportunity to speak with y'all. I'm going to talk a little bit about the link between the arts and peace. And as Phil said, I'm going to share a poem that I hope resonates with you and our work here together. Last year at this conference, the peace scholar and mediator John Paul Lederach shared some poetic reflections and ruminations on peace. In his writings, Lederach often says that we need to balance the science and technique of peace building with the art and soul of peace work itself. Peace building benefits from the hands of an engineer and the tongue of a poet, from the mind of a nurse and the vision of a sculptor, and from an understanding that all of these can be woven together. My art of choice is poetry. And the peace educator Mary Lee Morrison writes that poetry makes us human. Poetry through words reduces our experiences to their essence, to their core, and at the same time uplifts our souls to their highest. After all, poetry is at the core of our histories. We are storied peoples. The oral poetic traditions that started across the continent of Africa, that spread through the Middle East, that entered into Europe, and that manifested around the world show us the power of poetry to document our experiences, to express our voices, to honor our cultures, and to bring us together. I think that's the potential of poetry, to help us see our connections, to creatively illuminate the tapestry of a shared humanity, one story at a time. And that's what we're here doing today, weaving these voices together. So today, I want to start our journey in this conference with a poem. This is a poem I've often shared with Rotary friends and with Peace Fellows in my community, because I feel it's so resonant with our shared purpose. It's a poem not about speaking, but a poem about silence. Silence can be a beautiful and a powerful force, and there's a long history of finding peace within reflective or meditative or prayer silences from Buddhists, from Quakers, from many others around the world. But there's also a different form of silence, a silence that can be destructive. This, I fear, is the silence we witness all too often. Silence in the face of injustice, silence towards those suffering, silence that breeds apathy and inaction. This is the silence peace builders work to challenge and to change each and every day. As peace builders, we're called upon to speak out against violence, to listen and to amplify the voices most affected by it. And in a year where global inequality has been magnified by the pandemic, where violence and sexism and racism continue to rip through our communities in each corner of the world, now more than ever, we must speak up. We must raise our voices for peace and justice. We must transform those voices into action. Speaking is our peace. And this is what we're doing here today. I propose that the art and soul of peace, through the human tradition of poetry and storytelling, might help us speak up, might help us see our connections with one another, and might inspire others to speak too. You see, I was trained in the art of silence by a magician named Fear. He's good. He even looks like me in the mirror, so he slipped into my mind and I studied him well. I could float in a room and no one could tell. He taught me to squeeze the life out my lungs, how to swallow my words, how to bite my own tongue. It's just a trick. A sleight of the hands over your lips. Silence is a strange thing. It's hard to describe, but you can feel it inside. It rests in the darkness, but I was born on the edge of the horizon. All suns were built to rise. I was made to break this. I was made to grip this fist and bleed ink on the dawn. So I picked up a pen, gripped it tight in my fist. Then I wrote my first poem on the ink of a solar eclipse. I found a bottle of light tucked deep from within. So I opened it up and exhaled life into the wind. My voice is a rose stem. Cut from the thicket, I'll float petals to your heart, but I plant thorns in your throat. My words are beautiful, but hard to swallow and hold. You see, I was trained in silence by the illusion of Fear. I told y'all he was good. He even looked like me in the mirror, but I broke the spell. The answer is clear. I breathe words in the air. They're written in our lungs. Poetry is a part of me. It's a part of us. It's a part of peace. And that's why we're here. How will we overcome our silences? How will we address the fears that hold us back? The peace builder Martin Luther King once said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He said we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny, a single garment of destiny. So how do we weave our voices together? How do we summon the courage to do the work of peace building? How do we help those who have been silenced? How do we amplify the voices who need to be heard the most? I hope the sessions here today help us reflect on some of these questions and inspire a new path forward. Perhaps the answer is, as John Paul Lederach said, a little bit of the science and technique of peace work, grounded in the community of peace builders we have here, and combined with the art and soul of peace itself. Thank you so much.
Wow, 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 wow. Your words are indeed beautiful. A massive round of applause, Will. Wow. Okay, so whoever's up next, follow that. I don't know about you all, but that really touched me. That was so powerful, Will. Thank you so much. And indeed, your words are beautiful. And indeed, the dance that I think we're all engaged in is the dance between science and art. And how do we manage that kind of dance and address silence? And sometimes we need to address silence in a way that we just shut up and listen and try and understand. And at the other hand, we need to address silence in the sense that we don't need to be silent and we need to fight for injustice in order to move towards more justice and more peace in the world. Thank you so much, Will. The next task now is for me to introduce another wonderful colleague, Wale. I will do this very, very briefly because we want to leave time for a more broader introduction that Wale will give for our wonderful president, Holger. So let me just share the screen. Thank you so much, Wale, for being with us. Wale is our board member, doing a wonderful job bringing the Rotary Peace Fellows together under the umbrella of the Rotary Peace Fellowship Alumni Associations. So Wale, can we leave the floor to you to introduce our next speaker, Holger, please.
Thank you so much, Bill. I believe you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning here in Nigeria, and I say good morning to everyone. Thank you for making it to the opening session of the Africa, Europe, and Middle East part of our Global Peace Conference. I count it a very great privilege also to be asked to introduce no other person than our Rotary International President, Mr. Holger Knaack, who is the 2020-21 Rotary International President. Mr. Knaack is a Rotary member of 29 years, precisely since 1992. He has served as a treasurer, as a director, as a moderator, as chairman of several committees and representative of Council of Legislation, zone coordinator, and district governor. Mr. Knaack is the CEO of Knaack KG, a real estate company in Germany, and he also has been a partner and general manager of an enterprise of over 125-year-old family business. He is a founding member of the Civic Foundation City of Adeboye and was the president of the golf club in Knaack. Knaack and his wife, Susan, are major donors to the Rotary Foundation and members of the Quest Society in Rotary. Please, with your digital hand clap ready, if you can, welcome with me our esteemed 2020-2021 Rotary International President, Mr. Holger, for his keynote talk.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. And by the way, Suzanne and I, we hosted more than 40 youth exchange students in our home. And Suzanne always said, this raised our level of tolerance. So wow. Thank you all for this opportunity to address you here. And I want to commend the organizers of this conference for the important and ongoing work you are doing to promote peace here in Europe and everywhere. So thank you so much, Natalia and Phil, and thanks to all participants being with us. It's Saturday morning, and so thank you for taking the time. You all know peace is both a cornerstone of Rotary's mission as a humanitarian service organization, and it's one of our areas of focus. And Rotarians approach peace not as an abstract concept, but as a living, dynamic expression of human development. Rotary creates an environment of peace to happen. And we believe that if concerned citizens mobilize locally to create peace, change can happen also globally. Contribution to peace has been a priority of Rotary for many decades. And we are proud of our heritage in contributing to positive peace around the world, helping to build and sustain international organizations like the United Nations. And we had two exciting developments in the area of peace this year. The opening of the new Makerere Peace Center in Kampala, Uganda. And we took important steps toward creating a new peace center in the North Africa, Middle East region. We owe a new peace center to a generous donation of over $10 million. Promoting peace means taking an active role in peace building. The Peace Project Incubator as a concrete step towards putting our vision into action and taking to foster peace building and conflict prevention. For decades, Rotary has worked alongside other actors to address humanitarian issues around the world, and this important work will continue. What makes the Peace Projects Incubator unique? It's the way it works with these actors right from the beginning to develop peace projects. With our clubs around the world, can help to implement. The incubator shows to me that we Rotarians continue to prefer action to words. As Paul Harris once put in, peace is possible. Yes, we can do it and contribute to it. And that is also behind past President Sakuchi Tanaka's theme in 2012, peace through service. I love this theme. And I'm particularly proud of the outstanding contributions our Rotary Peace Fellows made to this Peace Project Incubator. For years, the Board of Directors of the Rotary International has encouraged close cooperation between Rotarians, Rotaractors, and Peace Fellows. Walter Geiger, the primary representative to the Rotary International to the United Nations in Geneva, spoke to me for the first time of his incubator idea at our convention in Hamburg in 2019. And I would never have thought that it might be possible in such a short time to develop more than 40 projects. And the Rotaractors of Peace have joined this astonishing effort and develop on their side more than 10 additional project ideas. I say this is astonishing, but it's typical of Rotaractors. They always exceed our expectations. These kinds of contributions are our best hope. We will help expand the cause of peace in the world when we expand our own reach and find ways to form alliances that transcend generations, borders, and all artificial barriers that keep us from caring for each other. I appeal to clubs and districts around the world to give a hand to our Peace Fellows, active Rotarians, active Rotaractors, and international experts to help them bring their excellent ideas to life. But also open your eyes to the different experiences that they generously share with us. This is through this kind of understanding that we find the seeds that, with proper tending, give roots to peace. The strength of Rotary is our grassroots nature, our clubs. Clubs gives us the incredible opportunity to contribute to peace building and conflict resolution. But only if Rotarians have the courage to stand up and speak out for peace. It's always about taking action. You all know tolerance is a relevant concern in so many parts of the world today. Rotary is not political, and it must stay that way. But when things obviously go wrong, we cannot look away. Rotarians must not be speechless. Rotarians have a duty to speak out against racism and discrimination. Rotarians are measured not only by their action, but also by their attitude. If our 46,000 Rotary and Rotaract clubs cooperate with 1,300 Rotary Peace Fellows, we can change the world. Let us use our knowledge and our network to contribute to a better world. We are living through an age of major challenges, especially the last 2 years. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once wrote that there may be more beautiful times, but this time is ours. This time is ours. And promoting peace is a way what we can both make the most of the times we are living in, and with enough attention and care, build a foundation for a more peaceful, beautiful future. Rotary opens opportunities for us all and for the people we serve. And there is no greater cause than we can serve than peace. Everything we do in Rotary opens another opportunity for someone, somewhere. Thank you so much for what you are doing, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Holger. I was saying what a wonderful kind of reflection on the importance of peace being more important now more than ever. And you made a nice little connection to Will in terms of speaking up, in terms of silence or not being silent. So thank you so much to that. Now, Natalia, can I ask you to introduce our next speaker, please?
Yes, Phil. We are very honored to introduce our next speaker, Hafsat Abiola, who has been the most outspoken pro-democracy activist and human rights activist, not only in her own country, Nigeria, and not only in the region, but also globally. And it also has a kind of personal meaning for me to introduce Hafsat Abiola as someone coming from Eastern Europe with our own challenges for democracy and peace and human rights today. So, and I'm also very grateful, we are grateful to Frank Schwalbach, one of the first members of the European Parliament, for recommending and introducing us to Hafsat Abiola. So Hafsat is one of the 3 leaders of Connected Women Leaders, and she is the president of Women in Africa Initiative, the foremost platform organizing the continent's leading women into force of sustainable development. And as an economist with degrees from Harvard, among others, pro-democracy activist who lost both parents to her country's democracy struggle, Hafsat believes women's equal engagement in the economy and governance system at all levels will lead to a better world. In Nigeria, Hafsat founded Kudirat Initiative for Democracy, a civil society organization that trains thousands of women in service-oriented leadership. She is one of 50 counselors of the World Future Council, a special envoy for Africa for women political leaders, and alumna of the World Economic Forum's community of young global leaders. And she is also the recipient of several global and national awards. So, dear Hafsat, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for the invitation to be with you today. I feel incredibly inspired to be in this room with all of you, over 1,000 people from all over the world. And I don't understand quite how you woke up so early on a Saturday. If not for this invitation, I would still be sleeping. I never wake up so early. And I can't imagine that what kind of organization is this that people wake up so early to come together and to think together about how we make the world better. You need to share with the world whatever it is that you drink. If there's something special that you put in the water, you can please reveal it, do an open source so that we can all have the same thing. I was deeply inspired by William McInerney's poem and by the words, "Speaking is our peace." And I want to take that as my point of departure for my remarks. And I want to thank also Holger Knaack for opening his house to 40 people from around the world, and you and your family. It's things like this that actually create the world that we want and the world that we deserve. You know, we have to open up and be generous with each other. And you are a living example of this. So thank you. Today, I want to talk about storytelling, which for us in Africa, if speaking is our piece, storytelling is our roadmap. We use stories to help guide people, especially the younger people. We want to use the story to teach them about our morals, our values, and to launch them into the world. And I want to share with you the story of my family. My father, who has long died now, was born into a very poor family. And in fact, his father, who had multiple wives, had 17 children before my father came. And all 17 died before the age of 5. So, and this wasn't quite, it wasn't so very unusual at the time because we had so many diseases that, and his family was poor, so they couldn't take care of those diseases and the children died. So when my father came, my grandfather called him Kashimawo, which is in my language, it means let us watch him. Now you have to know that that's not the way we give names in Nigeria. My name, Olarunke, means we care for that which honors us. So my family felt that I honored them and so that they were going to treasure me. And even my Arabic name, because my family is Muslim, Hafsat, means treasure. That's the way we give names. We give names that communicate hope and ambition about the destiny of the child, not let us watch him. But my grandfather had enough of children coming and going, not staying and not staying with us on earth, but going back to the spiritual realm. So he wasn't interested in giving any nice, important, meaningful name. But my father, maybe because he had been challenged by his father, decided to hang around. And so he lived. And after the age of 5, his father did a proper naming ceremony and gave him another name called Ola Wale, which meant honor entered my home. And that became my father's name. And my father was brilliant. He was fortunate and became a businessman. You know, he had scholarships through the Christian missionaries, even though he's from a Muslim family. He got those scholarships and he was able to excel and finally became a businessman. But as he was rising in business, he saw that all around him, the economy of our country wasn't doing well and people were poor. So he launched a bid to be president of Nigeria, but it was always connected with the need to take care of poverty in Nigeria. So his campaign theme was Hope 1993, Farewell to Poverty. It was a promise that if elected, he would address the poverty in the country. And the Nigerian people actually listened and elected him. But the military at the time wasn't ready for democracy. And it's a long story, which you don't really need to know. But what you need to know is that at the end, he ended up in jail. And my mother had to take up the struggle, and she was then gunned down by the military. And my father, after the whole movement that we built to have democracy in Nigeria, when he was to be released so that he could actually serve as president, the Nigerian military gave us his dead body and said he died 24 hours to his release. And it was a very difficult time for the family. And in fact, it took us, in some ways, I'm still recovering from what happened. But what did I learn? What I learned from that is that sacrifice is always necessary for change. Today, Nigeria has a democratic government, but I wouldn't say that all is good, because we continue to struggle to take care of poverty in the country. Indeed, actually, in terms of numbers, the numbers of people living in poverty in Nigeria today was more than when my father launched his campaign in '93. But it's not only this way in Nigeria, it's this way across Africa. The world's data, the people that gather data tell us that by 2030, Africa will have 40% of the world's extreme poor people. We already have now 1.2 billion people, 60% of whom are under 30. And countries like France get a headache when their unemployment rate is over 4%. In Nigeria, unemployment is as high as 30%. And if you count underemployment, which is employment that doesn't give you enough to live, we are at about 50%. Across the continent, it's leading to unrest because this situation has been made worse by the pandemic. Africa has not been hit in the way that the world has been hit by the pandemic in terms of health. We don't have the numbers. We've not lost hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people as the world has lost. The highest rate of COVID deaths we have is in South Africa, and it's about 20,000 deaths or so. Nigeria, which has 200 million people, has not even counted maybe 3,000 deaths. But we were hit economically because as soon as the world started experiencing the pandemic and started shutting down, the demand for the goods that we sell dropped. And our countries don't have the same buoyancy, the same reserves that the countries of Europe, the countries of the United States, the countries of Singapore, China have. So we've not been able to do as much. We've done what we can, but it's not enough for the people, which is why 2 weeks ago I was in Mali. I was there to receive an award. And as I flew out of the country fell to a military coup. Democracy itself across the continent is under threat because you see, all democracy is the opportunity to use a certain tool, this political tool called democracy, to solve problems. But if democracy cannot solve those problems, then the people will not support the democracy. We even saw this in the United States in January after the elections, when there was this attack on the centers of democratic power in the United States, that democracy requires trust. And democracy requires that people are heard, that the government is responding to the needs of the people. If the people feel that the government isn't responding to their needs, they will challenge that democracy. They may even accept to have the democracy overthrown, as nearly happened in the United States. I think in the United States, were it not for the centuries that the country has been able to have a democratic system, it might have fallen to authoritarianism. And many countries in the world, and especially in Eastern Europe, in Latin America, in parts of Asia, in parts of Africa, don't have the long history that they can fall back on. They don't have the strength of institutions. The world needs to rally now to make these democracies work. And the truth about the democracy that we have is that it's hard to make democracy work if it's premised on a developmental model that is almost like Greek Athenian democracy, where a small group get to have their say, but their say is on the backs of slaves who have no say at all. How do we claim to have a democracy in a global economic system that doesn't guarantee work for everyone, but guarantees work if the country has been able to surmount certain challenges? That doesn't make any sense, because people always need to eat. People always need to earn money to live. We cannot have a democratic system that is a world system that is premised on the idea that people will live if the country has done well in certain indicators. Whether your country is open for capital or not open, whether you have the capacity to compete in the global economic system, every morning, every afternoon, every evening, you should be able to afford food to eat. But there are now 1.3 billion people in the world for whom the answer about whether or not they'll have food is no. They will not have enough food. And the global system that we've tolerated, that we've accepted to be put in place, is what is pushing that dynamic. There was a study that was done by the Soros Foundation, and it looked at the world and Africa. The question it asked was, is the world powering Africa, or is Africa powering the world? And they looked at all the income that went into Africa and all the income that Africa sent into the world. They looked at foreign direct investment, they looked at aid. So, you know, at the G7, they would have been talking about how the world will help Africa with COVID and help us with money and all of this. They always talk about this. But that study looked at those flows of money to Africa and what Africa sends to the world. And they found that Africa gives the world $50 billion more than the world gives Africa, but every year. I'm not talking about 50 billion over a decade. Every year, Africa sends 50 billion into the world. And when you look at the news about Africa, they'll talk to you about Africa's corrupt leaders. Less than 10% of what was coming out of Africa could be accounted for by these so-called corrupt leaders. Another 20% was accounted for by the criminal underworld, trafficking in arms, in girls and women, and in drugs. The majority of it was multinationals, mainly Western multinationals. So we have a global system where the Western countries promote democracy globally. And then the Western companies extract surplus from the poorest continent in the world. It's a contradiction. It cannot stand. So I know I was really inspired by Mr. Holger saying that Rotarians can change the world. I want to challenge you today that there is a world system that can be best described as apartheid, where there's those that have and those that have not. And there'll be many studies that will tell you that those that have not, maybe they don't have the skills or all of those things. But I want to suggest to you that a world system that allows one country in the world to give the strategic resource needed to make all the cell phones in the world, and have that one country be also the poorest country in the world's poorest continent, is not a just system. There is something structurally wrong in that system. And I'm talking about Congo. Congo is the only country that sells coltan required to make all the cell phones. There have been trillions of cell phones made. And yet Congo is not even the richest in Africa. Africa is already exploited, we know, but it's still the poorest within a story of extraction and exploitation. I don't want, I know that in the 19th century or even the 18th century, through slavery, Black people were able to help build the wealth of North America, Latin America. I know that in the 19th century, 20th century, Black people and colored people were able to build the wealth of the Western world through colonization. We're in the 21st century now. And I want to challenge Rotarians to help us to change that story. I have, 2 weeks ago, marked the 25th anniversary of my mother's death. And yesterday, I marked my daughter's 13th birthday. And what I want to say is that when I leave this earth, I don't want to leave a story of a continuing extraction and a continuing violation of human rights of the people of Africa for my daughter to work on, as my mother left the challenge for Nigeria to me. I don't want to leave that. I want to leave her with other things to do. I wanted to become a poet like William McInerney. Why not? I wanted to sing music and dance and be happy. And I want that for all the children of Africa. And I want you to help us to achieve it. Democracy, yes. Let's have freedom of voice, freedom to vote, but let's build it on a just economic model so that everybody can actually participate in democracy. We cannot have democracy based on an economic apartheid system. And that, I think, is the challenge for our time. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Hafsat, for that wonderful reflection. And again, what we see coming through in all three really is the power of storytelling. And if we think about all three, there's one way of thinking of it, that there's a challenge there or a call that we need to think of peace building as involving this part, the critical thinking, let's say the science part, but also the heart part and the hands part. So what we need to try and promote is critical thinkers that are compassionate, so using their heart, but also go out there, and Holger spoke a lot about this as well, that go out there and do action using their hands in the world. So let's try and look at peace building as the development of the whole person, not just what they're thinking, but their heart and their hands as well. Thank you so much for that. So without further ado, and we're aware of the time as well, we want to move on now. Natalia, are you okay to talk about the next steps, please?
Yes, thank you, Phil, and thank you very much, Hafsat, for your powerful words and the very strong and powerful words. And now I think we can have some interaction in our breakout rooms. And Phil, can you please share slides? We would like to invite you to engage in interaction in smaller groups, breakout groups, for 10 minutes. And we have 2 questions, and probably we don't have time to discuss the second one, so maybe you can select one. So the first question is also connected with Hafsat presentation speech. So based on what you have heard from the speakers, what challenge resonates with you most, and what you would like to learn from the conference to help you to address it? And the second question, what are some of the main barriers and opportunities for weaving a shared future together, and how can Rotary strengthen its role in supporting peace and social justice work? And we have 10 minutes for our breakout sessions now, and then we will be back to our plenary, and our facilitators will probably not have time to share openly what they discuss, but probably they can share on the chat, on the chat, 2-3 main takeaways from your discussion, if possible.
So welcome back, everybody. Hands up who wanted another 4 or 5 days to talk about different things. Thank you. So I hope you all enjoyed that. So Natalia's going to talk about the next steps now.
Thank you, Phil, and welcome everyone back. And now we are very honored to introduce our fourth presenter today, and he is a great friend of Rotary Peace Fellows and also a Rotary community. And this is Maestro Karim Wasfi from Iraq, from Baghdad. He's currently in Baghdad, who's also a participant of a First Rotarian Peace Project Incubator. And Karim is an Iraqi conductor performing internationally between Europe, the Middle East, and the USA. And he's the president and founder of Peace Through Arts Global Foundation. And he's also the founder of Resonant Transcendent Integration Creativity Methods through instant performance compositions. And with more of 2 decades of experience in cultural diplomacy, he uses music, sound, and art therapy for healing and cross-cultural integration, radicalization, prevention of tensions, and his innovative approach has helped thousands of people in the areas of crisis to rise from violence. Karim? Maestro
Thank
Karim?
you very much.
Please.
Thank you very much, Natalia, and thank you all for being here. Greetings to all, and thank you for what you do and your dedication to a better now and a better tomorrow. There are infinite possibilities, I think, in the universe we inhabit, and all are rather emanate from the 0 degree at the center of the circle of potential. I would suggest the source resonant frequency with which fundamental geometries and all fractal complexities are formed. Our world is resonance made visible. To design the next second or the next tomorrow or the next Elysium, we must draw with resonant ink. This approach is a design of connectivity and equilibrium and harmony within self and harmony within creation towards a core resonance and well-being. The path is how to develop a path to inherent veneration. We're living in the age of AI. I mean, the 4th industrial revolution, and I believe the very essence of the very essence of human element and its fundamental is facing structural crisis. Many things are not very well in the world now. So a multifaceted holistic approach, Peace to Arts and our initiative is an integrative practice utilizing traditional and deep arcana, as well as leading edge technology and innovation to develop solutions for modern challenges and engender asymmetric paradigm shifts and resonant syntax. There is a wide area of concerns, and the spectrum is extremely troublesome. And as I've just mentioned a few seconds ago, the speed of communication and the speed of knowing is actually presenting a troublesome case in comparison to action. What is the sort of action and how we change? We have identified why. We are all identifying the reason and rationale behind change that we aim to manifest. But at this stage, it's about how and how proactively we can eradicate reasons for these concerns that we have. The trilogy, I think, as I've mentioned, that we are facing now is consumers, the populace, technology, and related to economy, and obviously businesses that are related to day-to-day life concerns, to include communication, and then the political systems and how this is all connected. Through democracy, it seems the populace has less concerns than the political systems that are colliding globally. We need to identify how, whether it's the Occident and the democracy as we know it from the West, or different democratic values from other parts of the world, but what is the approach that would lead into a real change beyond identifying, to transcend beyond the obstacles of problem and identify, how we can change. And obviously it is by action, by the level of interdependence that we create and connectivity based upon our values, but the ability not to identify, but the ability to change and to create these paradigm shifts globally. we need a resonant realignment. And the source design is essential to shift the narrative, to bring forth urgently needed transformation of individuals, communities, ultimately our species that I think is endangered by the current troublesome fear and intimidation of the unknown. Through practice of deep listening and natural design, we can deliver specific and tangible solutions to intractable challenges faced by enterprise and public clients. With the inner tranquility, spiritual science, and the contemplative reflection, we can all achieve the means to super sensible knowledge and its implication on multifaceted operation of redesigning how we conceptualize these concerns and how we address, but then transcend into how we change. Life patterns through attaining resonant vibration and relational elegance and harmonic interdependence are the core of our beliefs, along following points that I would refer to as in operational and organizational realignment globally that connects this trilogy of consumers, the populace, the political systems, and economies that are related to technology at our at our time. That relates to conflict mitigation, reconciliation, alternative dispute settlement, as Natalia had mentioned. But to identify means of stabilization within crisis zones, taking into consideration that what we're living now is another path towards identifying identity. Beyond globalization, we have witnessed globalization probably a decade ago. Now we're living sort of a reflection back into what is the cultural preservation, what is identity, and what are the parameters, what are the red lines in which we should not and cannot jeopardize in terms of how we connect to self and how we connect to different cultures and different concerns. It is an interesting time that requires all of us to focus more on action and beyond what is already taking place, and to, I think, create a different path of action that will allow people to be able to change beyond identifying what their concerns are. I can go on, but I think it's this is what I can relate to our efforts of peace building. So it's beyond what we're doing now into creating these oases of actions globally that would connect, despite our reality that we're living now due to the pandemic and all the other issues that is increasingly divisive. And we made a good use of technology, but I think we can make better use of technology by reshaping its impact on how we live and why we live and where we're heading next. It seems some of the actions are not as fast as evil. Altruism and good doing is a great approach, but I sense sometimes as if evil and corruption seems to be became more of a genetic inheritance of species. I respect all of you, but there is corruption, and it seems that we're always trying to create the different reality, as opposed to networking into a higher level, better than how terrorism had been networking and functioning with great impact. I mean, a grotesque, a huge impact on the populace everywhere in the planet. So it's more about, we have identified what the issues are. I think it's more about acting where we are. This is one of the reasons why I spent more time in Baghdad, Iraq, and and other parts of war-torn areas to encourage. Migration is an easy solution, but neglecting issues and leaving people in despair where they cannot think of a tomorrow and they're hardly living a now is not going to help. And I can continue with some cello instead of more words.
If you could do a quick little taster of cello, I think we'd all love that in a couple of minutes. What do we all think? Let's do it.
How long?
Thank you so much.
2 minutes?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Karim. But before we transition in terms of to say out loud some of the next steps, let's think about some of the journey that we've been on so far. And I think it's not just talking about the journey that we've been on. I think in some ways we've tried to showcase and walk the talk of the fact that we're not just brains on a stick, and in terms of working for peace in the world, we really need to connect the head, the heart, and the hands of peace building. I just wrote down a few words, some of the things that have come out from the 4 kind of talks or performances. The power of deep listening, so understanding what's going on. The power of powerful speaking, so using our voices, although Rotary are apolitical, areligious, using our voices to address injustice where we see it. And Karim as well spoke about, to some extent, we kind of understand where we are. We kind of understand the challenges that we're facing. What we need to do now, and this brings us to the 3rd word, which I think resonates with all 4, is strategic action in terms of how to act accordingly in a way that uses the head, the heart, the hands. So thank you so much to everybody for joining us. I want to hand over to Natalia now to say out loud some of the next steps, but enjoy the conference. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing the wonderful work that you're doing. And we look forward to working with you and learning with you and from you as we move forward on the conference. Natalia?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maestro, Karim, and thank you, Phil, for summarizing everything. And I think our opening plenary was very interesting and very inspiring. And we would like to invite you to participate in our next sessions, workshops. You can find the schedule in Hopin, and you can follow Zoom links there. So please stay with us for the whole program today. Thank you very much for being with us.